The Confident Stock Podcast is brought to you by My Evergreen Med Spa. Located in Houston in the Woodlands, My Evergreen Med Spa brings to you the latest aesthetic treatments in the most luxurious environment. Remember, My Evergreen Med Spa, it's me time elevated. Welcome back to the Confidence Doctor Podcast. I'm Dr. Rednam. I'm a board-certified plastic surgeon in Houston, Texas with My Houston Surgeons. And today we have a really fun guest who's going to talk to us a lot about the importance of branding. So please welcome to the show Amber Hurdle, who is a brand strategist.
I'm so happy to be here and get to hang out with you and your audience today.
So, Amber, a lot of people may not fully understand it. I think that we have a concept of what a brand is, but what exactly is a brand strategist?
So, I do branding very differently than most people. There are people who really specialize in visual branding. So they're about logos and colors and like the outfit that the brand wears. And that is amazing, very important. It is your first impression, just kind of like our physical appearance as humans. And then you have people who really work on like the messaging and the brand personality, which I do a ton of that, but that's still not the entirety of the brand. And so I really focus on brand experience. What is the experience if I'm a customer or a patient? What is the experience if I am a prospect or a community member? What is the brand experience if I'm an employee, if I'm an investor, if I am on the board, if I am a government official? There's so many different key stakeholders that every brand interacts with and needs to build trust with. To just rack branding up to logos and colors and fonts is so little, when really the brand is the foundation of any business. It's your identity.
It is, absolutely. And you're right. It's not enough it's just like with anything, it's not enough just to do one aspect of it. You really have to look at the whole picture of things, because your brand is much more than a color.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, for example, your brand, you have this podcast. I can't even imagine how your patients probably already feel like they know you and they trust you before they even go to their consultation, because you've created an experience for them to understand what it means to be your patient.
And that's really where, back in the day when I was first starting in practice, I'm like, I need to make videos because I wanted people to be able to get to know me. And then before you know it, then you get active on social media. And then this was just like a natural next step. I'm like, this is great. I get to meet all these amazing people, have great conversations, and learn a lot. But like you said, at the same time, it's just another chance for people to really get to know me and for me to get to introduce others to them as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Which is a reflection of your brand, because whoever you align with is saying, hey, this person is somebody I found important enough to offer to my audience, which is a part of my community and a key stakeholder. It's really brilliant what you've done. As a professional keynote speaker, I get often people will call me and say, like, I binged all of your podcast episodes. I hope you have this date available. You have to be it. Like, I don't even have to interview or compete. They just say, like, you have to do this. Like, that is such a powerful thing to do when you think about all the different touch points that your brand can have.
So I got to ask you, how did you get into this line of work, right? Because this isn't something you just wake up one day and you're like, I'm going to do this. People are going to call me. They're going to want me to speak. There's clearly been a lot of thought and planning into your personal brand.
Yes. So when I left, I mean, we could get in the way back machine. I learned about branding and positioning as a teen mom. And of course, I didn't know what that meant then. Like, we weren't even talking about personal brands in the 90s. Some of your listeners probably weren't even born yet. But I had my child when I was 16 years old, my first child. And so once it was she and I was really struggling, I had to figure out, like, how do I get ahead? How do I get the shift at the Applebee's that I want and not the one that I'm stuck with? How do I make sure that I'm tipped more? How do I make sure that I get this job, even though I don't have the college degree that it says I need to have, because I dropped out of college to take care of my daughter? And so I started learning things about myself that people really responded to. The first one was definitely my work ethic. I don't care who you are. If you're listening to this, I will work circles around you. bet. And then the second thing was that I'm really good with people. Like I'm really good at like identifying with people's needs and just connecting with people. And so those were the two things that I knew if I leaned into that, if I highlighted those things, that I would get ahead in whatever situation I was in. So full circle all the way to when Marriott bought Gaylord Hotels, I was like, gotta go. That's not what I signed up for. Like, God bless Marriott. They're a customer of mine. Like there's nothing wrong with them, but it wasn't the work environment that I wanted. And so at that point, I had to think about, well, what's the favorite part of all of my jobs? And it really was branding the executives. And so I went to coaching school. I thought I was going to be an executive coach. And then like I hit my head, I woke up and I'm like the number 2 branding expert in the world. So I don't know. I don't know what happened, but so intentional. I was like, was it? It was once I understood what it was that I was doing. Because I went from coach to trainer to speaker. And then once I realized, oh, really, my niche is branding. I have a PR degree. I mean, come on, this is not rocket science here. I used to run employer branding for Gaylord Hotels. Once you put all of your like hints together and you figure out what that is, and then you figure out who needs it. So like, what is it that I do? Who do I do it for? And how do I do it uniquely? Well, if I can figure that part out, now I can go out there and put systems and processes behind it. Now I know what my content pillars are going to be. Now I know which podcasts I want to be on and which podcasts I don't want to be on. I know what bodies of water to fish in. Like if you want to catch a catfish, well, don't go into the Pacific Ocean. Like you've got to go to a muddy pond somewhere, you know? So just really getting clear. That's my gift of branding, is being able to look into somebody's business, into them as an individual personal brand, or as you as an employer, and being able to say like, well, this is what makes you different, and this is your brand's edge right here. And oftentimes it's something that you might think is a disadvantage or something that you don't want people to know.
Like what? Like what's an example, I guess, of that?
Like me being knocked up at 16 years old. I mean, like that's the first example. Or I'll just pick on myself. Or I have ADHD and attentive. Well, you know, I have a limitless creativity. You don't want me keeping your books. Like I don't want your P&L on my agenda. Like I've got people who do that for me. But my limitless creativity is what enables me to be able to look at things differently and not in a linear way, which doesn't always get the nuances of things.
I like that way of thinking. I really like when I've thought about my own personal brand a lot, it's been really knowing myself, right? Mm-hmm. Because we all have strengths and weaknesses. And I know one of my strengths is also connecting with people. Yes. I feel like I can sit down and have a conversation with anybody. And so I was like, well, that's a strength, and I need people to see that, right? Because there's a bunch of amazing plastic surgeons in this country and other countries. And so once I have good results, which I feel like I have phenomenal results, then it's okay, well, what makes me different than them? Like what? Right. You know, what is that experience going to be different with me? And I'm like, I know myself well enough to know, okay, this is what I can bring to the table, but I need people to see that too.
Right. That's why this is so incredible for you, because I mean, I can already tell like your energy is so good. And if I was coming in and I'm like, okay, this is elective surgery in most cases, you know, I might not know a lot about it. You're already insecure about this part of your body or whatever's going on that you want to change. And then you go into an office that feels sterile and the person doesn't have a personality and they don't ask you about your dog and like those kind of things. You're just like, oh, now I got to take my shirt off, or, you know, whatever. That's not a fun experience. So yeah, if you are a physician who shows how much you're interested, not just like, oh, we care, but you're interested in the person that you're caring for. Well, now that's how you're getting that's referrals times a gajillion. And statistically speaking, a business that has loyal customers, that has a strong brand and loyal customers, has a 73% referral rate. 73%.
I totally believe that. I totally do. You know, one thing that I think is so impressive about you is like you said, you're number 2, like top branding person out there. But I know that you work with everyone from smaller businesses to really big corporations. Like, how do you balance like figuring that out? Because I would assume that while there's similarities, there's still definitely different things you have to think about when it comes to scale.
Yeah. So for me, it's really about narrowing it down to, are you fast growing? Well, first of all, are you willing? Because as you know, I'm sure like anybody listening right now, you work with different people, and some people you're like, why are you even like, do you want this? So you have to be willing to change or evolve. And so for me, that looks like mergers and acquisitions is big for me. So either you just got funded, you're seeking funding, you just merged with another company, you just got bought by another company, cultural integration, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of moving parts there. Or it could be like a fast growing company that is just, they have to hire 30 new people in the next 90 days. Like they were at X million dollars. Now they're at X million dollars. So my sweet spot, I would say, is like the middle market. And not that I can't work with the big people or, even the baby brands, but middle market is usually, they need help enough, but because they don't have like the infrastructure for it, yet they're still small enough that they can be nimble and implement things and kind of like, let's see what happens if we push that button, if we pull this lever, and they're open to being flexible because brands evolve. Like if you think that you're just going to put a brand guide together and be like, checking that box, all right, let's get back to work. That's your brand lives and breathes every single day. So you kind of have to tweak it for a little bit and evolve it. I check in on my brand guide or the brand guides of my retainer customers once a year. So
that was actually going to be one of my questions. Is like, if you do start working with somebody, is this kind of becoming a lifetime relationship, or is, because like you said, people change and brands change, and what the needs of people are change over time.
Yeah, personal branding. I'm cautious to refer to it as a publicist because a publicist, while wildly important, they set up media, but a boutique PR firm, which is more of what I would consider myself, it has more of that brand strategy. Like, okay, I need to understand, what are your operational goals? Well, what's your mission? What's your vision? Okay, now everything that we're going to do, not just media, not just your speaking appearances or that sort of thing, everything needs to be in alignment with those goals. I'm not even sure if I answered your question because I got off on a tangent.
No, you. I'm like, what was my question again? No, I know what you mean though. Like, yeah, you do. I understand that. Like, you have to constantly be thinking about like what you're messaging, like what you want, and you have to change as what you're doing changes as well. Let's say somebody was newer in business, and it doesn't have to be medical; it could be any business. Like, what's a good way? Like, and I understand. Like, let's say somebody's not quite ready to bring on somebody like you,
sure,
but they want to take those first steps. Other than like, obviously starting to spend some time really thinking about what their message is. What are like some other kind of, if you had to pick some simple first steps that may get them in that right direction?
Yeah, so personality assessments are amazing. And I don't care if you take a Disney princess quiz on Facebook, like just do something. I'm certified, I'm a senior certified Fascinate Advantage advisor. And so that is a personal branding assessment. And I mean, there's so many. You could do DISC, you could do Enneagram, you could do your astrological chart. I mean, I have a professional software for that because it fills in some of the gaps. But like if we just take me as an example to just give that clarity, on Fascinate, I'm a catalyst, which means I'm highest in passion, which is the language of relationship, and second highest in innovation, which is the language of creativity. So what is it that I do? Well, I create warm emotional connections and I get people to trust me. And then I go, guess what? You got to change. And then because they trust me, they're willing to go down that path of evolution. Because again, like when you're asking, well, what are you looking for? The people who work with me want to go from here to here. They want to evolve. They want to elevate. And so if you're just like wanting to keep things status quo, I'll refer you. That's not for me. So that like knowing that about myself is step one. And then I always say like, follow your breadcrumbs, just like Hansel and Gretel, they put their little breadcrumbs out when they went on their little journey and to find their way back home before the witch caught them and they didn't get the chance. But like, let's just pretend that they did. Life has a way of leaving those breadcrumbs. For example, in the 4th and 5th grade, I competed in the California State Speech Meet. And I'm a professional speaker now. In college, I was on the debate team. I'm a professional speaker now. all of the stories that I told you about having to figure myself out. Well, that's a breadcrumb that taught me about branding. So like, here we are, like, just look for all of those commonalities. Who were you in your family? Were you the serious one? Were you the peacekeeper? Were you the person who always set the table? Were you the person that made everybody laugh all the time? Were you the person who performed in the living room and made everybody watch you? Like, what about junior high? What about high school? What about your sorority or your fraternity? What was your identity then? Let's find those common themes and then bring it to what's going on in your life right now and see if we can put the puzzles together.
That's a great way. We actually did that with my partners. We did the disc test.
Yeah.
And, we all knew we were dominant. I mean, we're all surgeons. but what was interesting is we realized that why sometimes we don't agree on stuff is I was much more in this artistic world. And the way that I think, I'm much more imaginative and, lead with my heart. While we've got some of my partners who are like, I need to see the numbers in the business. Like that part of them is. And so it made so much more sense why I like to do things a certain way and they like to do things a certain way. And it didn't necessarily change us, but it helped us to understand each other, right? And it helped us to figure out, okay, this is why I like doing these things this way.
And so there's another concept of mine. Like what you just described was what I call bubble wrap. So that linear thinking, numbers driven physician who is your partner is your bubble wrap, and you are their bubble wrap. And what I mean by that is, we often are like, oh, I suck at numbers. Well, I mean, I can barely count. I'm dead serious. Like, I just can't even keep numbers in my brain. All the words, I'll find you the most beautiful, perfect word, the most perfect word, but no numbers. So unless there's dollar signs, then I get kind of interested. But for people like us, we could be like, oh, you're such a killjoy. You're always just wanting to talk about numbers. Well, if you want to be a profitable company, somebody's got to look at your numbers. So we could look at Fine China and we can be like, okay, well, I need to pack you and ship you across the country. And so do we put it in the box and let it rattle around and then go like, oh, you are terrible. You suck. I can't believe it. You broke. You're fragile and you're worthless. No, that was great grandma's China. And we treat it with reverence. It's expensive. It's valuable. Its job is to sit on a table. It's not designed to get shipped across the country. So instead of berating it, we just bubble wrap it. So I bubble wrap my lack of love for numbers with a bookkeeper and a payroll manager and a CPA and make sure that I've got systems and processes. So to protect your brand, to protect your personal brand, you need to have human beings, people, and processes in place to make sure that the best of you gets to shine and that you get to stay in your areas of strength. And I don't want to hear about weaknesses. I'm not weak. You're not weak. We're just, was it Einstein said, you can't expect a fish to climb a tree? Like that's.
Yeah. We are what we are sometimes. And
right.
We got to do the best with what we have.
Absolutely. With no apologies. And
that's the nice thing. Like, even within my practice, I have my own team and we all complement each other, right? We all, like you said, we all have our own strengths. But at the end of the day, that if any of us are taking care of you, you're getting that same level of care because we all value the same things that are important we all value.
So your employer brand then is based on shared values and your mission and this culture that you've created, but you didn't get robots. You got complementary personality types who shared values. And that's when you have an amazing employer brand where people feel seen and supported and they get to share their best and it contributes to something bigger. We all want to feel valued. We all want to contribute. Like, statistically saying, the happiest people on the planet are people who use their gifts in service to other human beings. And we can do that through our vocations. So wouldn't you want to be ruthlessly like, go take a bubble bath, get your self-care time, whatever. How about you figure out what your gift is and then go share it with somebody and now you'll have joy.
And you feel a lot happier when you're not trying to keep chasing after something that's just maybe not going to be something that's going to be your wheelhouse.
Right. Nobody wants me cutting on them, I promise.
So what are some challenges? I know for sure, right? If you're not open to this, then you're not going to necessarily succeed in this. But what are some maybe smaller challenges? Let's say somebody is open to this and they're trying that you've seen in your line of work that you're like, okay, these are things that can occur and like you're going to have to figure out ways to get around it sometimes.
Like me being an owner of two companies and not liking numbers, like, or do you mean like that?
Yeah.
Like
I
bubble
just
wrap's
mean
not,
that like sometimes like I can tell you like from colleagues, friends, they are all about it. They're like I want to create what you've created, right?
oh yeah,
And but then there comes these blocks where it's like they're like, but I'm doing everything you're doing, but they're not, because if they were, then they would have what they wanted. So
right.
it's just like, are there things that you've noticed in like with the different clients you've worked over time that are like common things that people think they're doing everything right, but there's still stuff that they're getting hung up on?
Yeah, themselves. They're in their own way. Like the 100%, myself included, 100%, it is we get in our own way because no one has authority over our thinking other than ourselves. And so what happens so frequently, and that's why I love branding work, because it's really just my Trojan horse for getting in and like getting into people's heads and like helping them heal. But, and I don't mean that like in any woo woo crazy way, but like the stronger you become, just like an athlete, like there is a reason why they have sports psychologists, because whatever is between them and driving the best, golf drive that they can do, or hitting a dong or whatever in baseball, that's up here. So I would just say, like, if you're getting stuck and you have imposter syndrome, or you think that, somebody else can do it better than you, so why should you even try? My challenge would be to just text message like 5, 7, 10 people, because, who knows who will respond, and just ask, what's one trait that I undervalue about myself? So write that down. I want you to do this today. I want you to text and make sure it's like a mix of people. Like it could be family. Don't make it your 5 best girlfriends, because they're all going to say the same thing. Like text message, maybe a colleague that you're comfortable with, a family member, maybe somebody you volunteered with, somebody you currently work with, maybe somebody who reports to you, maybe the person you report to, and just ask them that. The responses that you get will either affirm what you already know and allow you to step into that confidence, or it'll shake you up a little bit because maybe you missed some things. Because oftentimes our greatest gifts are the things that we take for granted. Like, how hysterical was it that I had to figure out with a PR degree, with all this experience, that I was good at branding? Like, I had to get there. And it really was getting the feedback, the mirrors that the relationships in my life held up to me. And I would just encourage you to consider all the mirrors in your life and see, go to your social media, look at people's comments, look at the type of stuff that you post. That tells you about, like, what is it that you're putting out into the world that is important enough for you to share. If you go to my personal social media, you're going to see a lot of 90s hip hop. You're going to see, just funny little things. Like, you're going to see what my personality is by just what I casually share at 2:00 in the morning,
When you do this kind of work, do you travel a lot? Like, or when you meet a new client, like, how much time are you spending with them in order to help them create this?
So when I'm starting new with a client, I like to do a full day intensive. And so I am just a lunatic maniac asking 1,000 random questions that they're like, where is this chick going with this? And then it all comes together and like, oh. And then from there, we can do everything virtually for the most part. I have some customers that they, maybe twice a year or quarterly, or we get together at conferences or whatever. But most of it is ongoing. And I have different exercises that I have them to do to develop their brand voice. And then I might give them some homework to do some research. Of course, teaching them how to use AI and using AI authentically, which is why we have to have the brand guide and the brand voice and so many things to know about you, what you do, what it is you want the world to know about you, who is your ideal customer, or your ideal audience if you're not selling something. And once we put all those pieces together, now you have a package to be like, okay, here, robot intern of mine, because you're certainly not a CMO. You don't know enough to be that. So I can't just be like, write a blog post about plastic surgery and it'll be like, completely on brand. So just packaging it, massaging it. My executives that I work with, it really matters, especially when they're like ongoing things. Like, I'm pitching the third hedge fund that we're entertaining. Okay, well, that hedge fund has different people involved and they have different personalities. So we don't change our brand, but we tweak the messaging, because Nike, when selling to soccer moms, does not talk to soccer moms who want to wear athleisure wear and look cute in the car line at school. They are not going to be interested in what Nike, who is still Just Do It, still a intense athletic brand, they're not going to speak to the soccer mom the same way they're going to speak to a performance athlete who wants to shave a second off their time.
Absolutely. That's
You don't
right. But
change
they're
you.
still the same company, but you're
Yes.
right. They have to show different sides of themselves, I guess.
Yeah. So like an executive's not going to have the time to do the research for that. So I know how to do it quickly. I can learn voice patterns and language patterns and word tracks and things like that. And just by the questions that are asked, I can tell, which of the 7 languages, like mine are passion and innovation. Well, there's 5 others. So even just narrowing it down to that and then looking at like what matters to them. Now we're going to set up the pitch deck differently. Now we're going to think about, well, how am I going to communicate with this person so that I am meeting them where they are? Because if I want millions of dollars from somebody, I should probably speak in their language and meet them where they are without changing who I am. I'm just adapting a little bit.
So you mentioned, with the advent of AI is here to stay. It's going to become more and more a part of our lives. Like, how are you finding that you're able to utilize it so that it comes off as genuine and not, like you said, canned?
Yeah. So we talk about the I'm trying to just go in the most logical path here. When we're talking about AI, I have a framework that we start in, but the very and most important thing is, and I'm pulling some things up just so I don't misspeak real quick, but the most important thing is to be ridiculously authentically you and like over the top with AI, because one of the things about AI is we think, oh, it's paying attention to everything that we said. The speed in which it works, and I'm talking about like LLMs like Claude or ChatGPT, when it's looking at what you're asking it to do, it's just skimming the surface. Like it's not analyzing every single word. And if you attach something to it, it's just quickly moving through it. And AI has certain things that it likes to do over and over and over again. And one of them is the M dash. So you guys are going to be like, okay, now you said look for a white car and I see a white car everywhere. I'm about to ruin your online experience and I'm sorry. But the M dash. So that is like the double dash that's connected and there's no space between the words that it's connecting. And so ChatGPT especially loves the M dash. And I'm seeing sentences that have like 3 different M dashes or M dash sections out of like 4 sentences. And I'm like, we need to settle down with that. Like commas are still okay. Like commas and semicolons, they're good. And then the second thing is parallel contrast. And we use it a lot. It's a great way. It's a great way for humans to communicate clearly. So for me, it would be something like plastic surgery is not about nurturing insecurities. Plastic surgery is about stepping into the very best of you. It's not this, it is this. And ChatGPT, I'm telling you, look at every single video script, every single post, and somewhere at the end, it's going to wrap it up with parallel contrast. If it's not in there 4 times already, it's so overused. So we want to program our robot to not do these things. And then the third thing is compound complex sentences. That is not, we don't do that anymore. That was like an English class. And I do like for feature writing or things like that, but I've been writing for forever. And that's like part of my job. Most people have been barely punctuating correctly online and suddenly they're writing compound complex sentences. That's just a dead giveaway. So I want you first and foremost to think about your robot again as an intern. So when you think about an intern, you think about somebody who doesn't know anything that you genuinely have to tell everything to. This is our company, or this is my personality. This is what I'm trying to do. This is who I'm talking to. These are our guidelines. This is what you can do. This is what you can't do. You wouldn't just walk into an intern and be like, hey, write a blog post for our company. Whatever.
And you wouldn't just take it without like editing it and really thinking it through.
Exactly. Yeah. So my best advice is to put together, when you're making your content, put together, like, if you don't have a full brand guide, at least a one sheet about who you are. So like, again, what do you do? Who do you do it for? And how do you do it uniquely? Don't give me any baked chicken, vanilla ice cream, cheap vanilla ice cream stuff. I'm not talking about vanilla bean. I'm talking about cheap vanilla ice cream. So start there. And then maybe put your values. Maybe you can talk about like the things that you like to talk about. Maybe you can say like, I really like to start with a strong hook. I like to have 3 key points. I like to have an encouraging end, or I like to have a challenge, or, I'm edgy, or I'm super friendly. Whatever those things are, start there. And then whatever content you have, like I create content standards for YouTube scripts. I have content standards for a long form LinkedIn post. I have content standards for a short form LinkedIn post. If I'm being totally honest, I don't use AI like most people. I ask it a question and it comes back to me. And then I say, can we clean up this sentence a little bit? What do you think? I'm like, no, I don't like it that way. Put it back. So it's more of like having a writing
conversation with them.
Conversation.
Yeah.
But if you're not a writer, then I would say template everything and feed it what you need it to do, and still check it, still slap your stink on it on the back end. But I was arguing with it the other night. I highlighted something. I was like, what do you think I'm going to say about this? Oh, so sorry, that's parallel contrast. I'm like, yes, it is. And you put it in here. Find me the other one. And it's like, oh, found it there too. Would you like me to update those? Yes, I would, because that was part of my instructions. It's also part of my custom GPT. So it's been told it twice and it still put it in. So you can't just trust a robot.
I love that. I've never thought to really sit there and have more conversations with it, and really, because it's artificial intelligence, so why not? Like, why not utilize it fully? So I think really what I'm hearing is like we should be really trying to think on a deeper level with this, rather than it being some quick and easy thing. Like most things, you got to put a little more effort into it to get the product you want. Yes,
absolutely. So I'm going to go to let's see if this, Amber's marketing assistant. So this is how easy this goes. Hi, in Amber's most authentic voice, I would like to create a LinkedIn post. So it needs to be on the more professional side, but still with my vibrant personality. I would like to create a LinkedIn post about me appearing on the Confidence Doc podcast, talking about branding. And you have enough about me to know what we're talking about. So make it under 500 words.
All right, let's craft your LinkedIn post. Thrilled to share that I recently joined the Confidence Doc podcast for an exciting conversation about branding. We dove into the art and science of creating a compelling brand, from personal branding to employer brands, and how it all connects to your unique value. My goal is to help leaders and businesses unlock their potential by aligning their brand with their core values. If you're looking to elevate your brand strategy, this episode is for you. Tune in and let's amplify your brand together. #branding, #leadership, #podcast guest. How does that sound, Amber?
Perfect. Thanks so much.
That's awesome. That's a great example. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And I think that this has been so enlightening. And whether you're a physician listening to this, you're a potential patient, all of us can benefit from branding, because what it really does is it helps express who we are, and it helps link up with the people that we want to be able to reach. And that's a pretty universal thing. So thank you so much, Amber, for being on the show. And if anybody would want to reach out to you because they're interested in your services, what is the best way for them to reach you?
Sure. AmberHurdle.com will get you everywhere. But if you want to go to AmberHurdle.com/newsletter, I'm not spammy at all. Like, I hate that. And I put branding tips and AI branding tips in my newsletter every single week. So,
well, awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show. And thank you all for joining us on this episode of the Confidence Doc. I hope you all learned a little something.